Hey everybody, it's JW with Sober Militia Podcast and X-Stop Writing. I am joined today with Carmell Pelly from Recovery Lifestyles, and she agreed to come on and talk a little bit about her story. And as you guys know, this is one of my favorite parts about my recovery has been doing these video casts and podcasts with people and getting to know how people have gotten to, through their recovery or their stories. So Carmell, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, my name is Carmell, and I run a community called Recovery Lifestyles, which is Recovery Lifestyles is a podcast. I'm also an author to several books. And the platform kind of envelops a lot. How this started was I got sober. I walked into the rooms, the 12-step rooms, 17, 18 years ago when I'd burned my life to the ground. And from there, I went on to, get sober. It took me a few tries. Relapse was a part of my story, but today I'm 15 and a half years sober.
Nice.
And that's from, thank you. Yeah. And that's from drugs and alcohol. I led a very fast-paced, crazy lifestyle for many years. And the cool thing is that I feel that as I'm getting older, I'm actually getting younger looking. That's the vein, I guess, the beauty side of sobriety.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I walked into the 12-step rooms. I ended up, getting clean and sober and went on to create a life. And around 4 to 5 years of sobriety, I decided to create a business. I stepped into different roles of my life where I was sitting on boards. I was doing all of these things that business people do, but I was living a bit of a double life. Nobody who had known me or who knew me in that life knew that I'd been an addict. And it just got to the point where, I would be sitting in these meetings deciding where money would go for people who were struggling with the same things that I had personally struggled with. And I couldn't say, I get it, like I can relate to you, and so anyway, fast forward 6 years later, I decided to tell my story. And that was huge, right? Because it was like, and the really funny part is the book that I created my story for, it's an anthology. So several people came and they wrote chapters for this book. And the book is called Come Out of Hiding and Shine. And I thought, yeah, that's my book. So I wrote my story. The woman who the publisher of the book, she also runs a network on Voice America TV and the Women's Network on Voice America Radio. And she said, why don't you start a podcast? And I thought, oh my gosh, no, that's not a good idea. But as it sat with me, and I recognized that there were a lot of people out there that had these incredible stories, and they were hiding in shame, because ultimately I was leading a double life because of my shame. And I felt like I had something I had to prove, when reality is that was my story. That is who I am. That is who makes me who I am today. And I am a better person because of that. So that's where Recovery Lifestyles began. And so now I interview people who have recovered from alcohol, drug addiction, mental health challenges, you name it. We talk about everything.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now, did you say you're working on a book for yourself as well?
I am. So I'm currently writing my own memoir.
Okay.
It's going really slow.
And it can. Yeah. So is it more about just kind of trying to lay out the journey from day one kind of a deal, or are you focused on any certain aspect of it?
It's about the healing part of it. I'm going really deep. I'm looking at things, and things are coming up that I had never either forgot or just refused to look at, and now it's coming out. Nice. So it's a healing process at the same time, and it's not an easy one, for sure. You think that after almost 15 and a half years of sobriety and all of the, the treatment and work I've done on myself that, I sometimes think I should be done. But reality is there's a whole new layer there waiting all the time. Every time you get to a place where you think you're done. And I've decided I'm going to stop thinking I'm done, because I think this is going to be a lifelong process.
Cool.
But it's freeing, it's freeing, because on the other side of it is healing. On the other side of it is releasing shame, releasing all of those things that hold me back.
Yeah. As
a result, I know I've just said it a million times, but I'm free, really.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's such a freeing experience. Just for me, it was that literally the idea of getting to know myself. Because my entire life, I don't think I really ever knew who I was, and I don't think anybody who knew me knew who I was. And so to kind of come to grips with that and realize, wow, there's a whole person in here that I don't really know. And so how I approach everything is going to be different than what I'm used to. And how I think about things may change. And, like you said, that process of growing, it just kind of continues every single day.
And I think that, there's real power in taking a look. Not a lot of people are willing to take a look, but there's power in it. Yes, it's painful. It's not easy. But on the other side of it, like I said, is the freedom. And that freedom to me is deep inner peace and a lot of joy. Yeah.
Joy is a big part of it, isn't it? That feeling.
Yeah.
Even when you're having a bad day, there's still an element of joy that's kind of lingering there,
Exactly. It's like I can still smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was where before it used to be like, oh, I can't deal with this, and you just drowned it. Like, go away. Yeah, get rid of it.
Well, I think the big realization or the big, aha moment is I'm not in charge. I don't, I can let go.
Yeah.
Things are actually going to go better when I let go.
Yeah. My therapist because I saw a therapist for the, the beginning parts. And then once I decided to kind of make that decision and go, alcohol free, I did that for a little while, kept seeing her, and then I dropped the therapy. But one of the things when I was going through it, because I was struggling, kind of like you said, trying to figure it all out. And I didn't know how fast it was supposed to be. And I kept thinking, this should be happening quicker. I should be getting it. And I'm not getting it. And I remember telling her that, and I was really frustrated. And she goes, listen, the majority of people out there aren't even taking that step that you've already taken. You're already on the right path. It's like you just got to stick with it, stay there, and kind of let it play out. And it took for me a little while to understand how that worked, and then once it did, everything started to kind of fall into place.
Yeah, and that's the other piece of it. As I'm writing, I'm actually seeing a therapist. So nice. I'm not only writing it and getting it out and feeling everything, almost like reliving it, I'm going and processing it. And awesome. So yeah, I'm like, I thought this was going to be faster. I really, every time I talk to my publisher, I'm like, it's happening. Yeah. And she's so cool. I have this expectation of myself, and she's like, just let it be, allow it to unfold the way it should. And I'm like, oh, another control issue.
Yeah. I think with the writing piece, and especially in terms of thinking about, recovery and something as important as this, that it has to be true. It has to be truth from you. It's like, don't try to make anything happen, because I'm kind of going through the process right now of writing as well and finishing a book that I'm going to be putting out. And it's the same thing, it's like, don't try to make it anything. Just let it be what it is,
Yeah. Well, and I find that if you read biographies, I've read thousands. That's one of my favorite things to read. But somebody who hasn't done the work, and maybe not everybody will notice it, but for myself, I can read a book and I can tell if you haven't done your work, because it's very surface. And I don't know, who wants to read a surface book these days, right? Yeah.
I've been having a lot of fun with my blogs, because I try to just let the same kind of thing as writing the book. I kind of just try to let things out as they come. And so a lot of times what I'm writing is my exploration of new thoughts and new ideas too, as I'm experiencing them. And by writing about them, it kind of gives me a little bit of a deeper understanding, and then as that creates discussion or comments or, questions, then I learn a little bit more. And sometimes I take more with what I thought originally, or sometimes I let go of what I thought originally, depending on how things go.
Well, I think what I hear you saying is, am I writing from a place of maybe a little bit of resentment and I need to prove a point, or am I writing from a place of like, this is the reality? And
Yeah. And I think it's, the end result, I think, isn't as important as, how can I say that? the end result financially of what this book does is not as important as what you get out of it when it's done, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how I'm approaching mine too. Is it's just like, this is for me. This is really how I'm doing it. This is my journey. This is my process. I'm going to put it out there. Whatever happens to it is really irrelevant to me. It's more about how do I feel about it at the end of the day.
Yeah, mine's a little bit, well, the same thing, but I have a lot of women in my community and actually quite a few men now who we do have similar stories, and hearing our stories helps them.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's not, I'd like to say the book, obviously it is about me, but it's more about the other person. It's more about the healing. It's more about the awakening that could happen from somebody saying, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Oh, that happened to me too, right?
Yeah. That's my favorite thing is if you can just reach somebody who's just where it clicks for them, something you said or something you did or something you went through clicks. When you get that kind of connection, that's why I'm here right now. It's just meeting those people, you know, talking, getting the discussions going, doing these video casts and podcasts, and just kind of learning more about people that are out there going through these things. I just love it.
Yeah, it's a great community.
Yeah, for sure.
I have some of the best, like some of the closest friends now, and I've never met them.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's kind of bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, like people all over the world, but we all come together with the same purpose, and it's pretty amazing.
It's an incredible community. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, from the point of view of like helping, you know, because that's been one of the things. I've talked about it several times where it was very unexpected. You know, when I first started, you know, my journey, it was for me just trying to figure my stuff out. I had to do it. I had to figure out where I was at. And then as I did that, I just automatically started falling into this desire to try to reach out, you know, and I never have done that before. It was very new. So I was wondering kind of what was your experience with that from the beginning? When did it start? How long did it take?
Oh man. So from when I started the podcast or started writing?
I'd say even just when you first quit, you know, I feel like I've heard the story a lot where people who have given up an addiction begin to feel a need to want to help other people do the same thing. And so I was just wondering, when did that happen for you and how did that go, and as far as the journey for you?
So the 12-step room that I landed in almost 18 years ago was Cocaine Anonymous. Okay. And it was downtown in the city where I lived. And it was in a pretty rough area. And there were a lot of characters in this disgusting, dingy little basement. But yet, I've met some of the most inspiring, the most loving, the coolest people, right? Yeah. In those rooms. And so I think it was probably like, for me, I'm going to flip your question a little bit, but when I went and first started sitting in these rooms and of course got over myself that I was sitting in these rooms with these people and really started to listen to what they had to say. And I would see people with, you know, 3 years sober and somebody getting up and taking a key tag for like 90 days. And I was like, wow, you know, wow, these people are like amazing. And they inspired me. And I think that was a bit of the driving force right there. It was like, I want to be able to do that. I want to get up and take a 30-day key tag and, you know, have somebody look up and I can tell them how to do it, you know? Yeah. I can tell them what I did to get this 30-day key tag, because going back to the beginning, I mean, oh my gosh, the joke in the rooms, and I was young. I mean, I was 24 years old when I walked in the rooms. Okay. You know, I had a almost 5-year-old little boy with me, and I would take him to all my meetings with me. Him and we'd go to this like grungy little place, Cocaine Anonymous, and he'd sit with me. And it was just like, yeah, I'm here and I'm 3 days sober, you know, and it was like a big deal. But going back to the joke, the joke was that I personally, Carmell had enough keychains, 30-day key chips, 60-day, those sort of things to fill a Christmas tree. Because I relapsed so many times.
Yeah. I think we all do.
Yeah. I think, you know, there are a few people out there that they just get it. Yeah. But no, I truly believe that. Like, first of all, how we recover and how we get to that, there's no judgment there.
Yeah.
However it happens, like, that's a miracle to me. And so I do believe that, you know, sometimes relapse is a part of that recovery story, journey, whatever. And I had to sit in that room many times full of shame. And, you know, it's awesome to now sit here and be able to laugh about it.
Yeah, I've been saying for a long time, I really don't like the idea of relapse and the stigma that kind of follows it, a lot, you know, in a lot of places. And you'll see it on the, you know, the groups online and everything. And to me, I never got it because, you know, we've all been there. Not all of us, but a lot of us have been there. And to me, I'm like, it's, you know, you make a mistake, you come back and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it again. And you start doing it again. To me, as soon as you make that decision, then you're already still back where you need to be. You know, it's like, I use the analogy of working out. You know, if you're working out every day for 6 months, you know, and you're building muscle, you're getting stronger, all these things are happening, but you have a bad day and you forget to work out or you eat really crappy. How much does that really affect your game, right?
I wish it was only 6 months. I wish I could get 6 months in.
But I just think that
my current battle.
That was one of the things I decided to do with the quitting was the exercise. I just had to do something like that to get my body going. But yeah, but that idea of like, you know, if I make a mistake, is it over? And I think sometimes people actually, you know, feel that way. And I think that's a horrible way to look at it, you know. And if we can help people see, hey, it's not over. That's just a learning piece.
Well, and I think what's really cool is that, you know, in this online community, the face of recovery is really changing. It's not something that's anonymity anymore. We're not anonymous. Yep. There's a lot of controversy around that, but I think that comes a lot from the people who only know the rooms.
Yeah.
And this is so cool because, I mean, I'll flip on Twitter and I only follow recovery accounts. And I'm only on Twitter to, like, I don't know, when I post on Instagram, it hops on Twitter, something like that. Yeah. I don't even know how to use Twitter. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm an Instagram girl. Yep. So when I go on Twitter, and I go on every day, it's like just rows and rows and rows of people being totally authentic, totally vulnerable about where they are at in their journey. And it's like so exciting to go on there and champion these people and encourage them. And I love that. Yeah. And I think I would have probably, I don't know. I think my journey would have been a little bit easier if I had an online community of support. Yeah,
because you said 15 years ago, right? So there was nothing.
No.
At that time.
This is new. I mean, this is only the past like 3 years that recovery online has been blowing up.
Well, you know, it's funny because it's counterintuitive in a way, because you think that, you know, as much as you need a community and need that support, the anonymity piece is interesting because it limits that, right? And so being able to just put it out there and let people, you know, acknowledge you and praise you for what you're doing and be able to talk openly about it opens that ability to reach more people and have a bigger community, you know?
Yeah.
So it makes so much sense that it's working the way it is.
It is. It's really amazing. It's exciting to watch people, and even younger, you know, 20-somethings come in and get sober and not have to carry all of that shame and guilt with them and then hide themselves. You know, that was my story. I hid myself because I didn't think it was okay to be me. And so it's really exciting, actually.
It is. Yeah. And then, you know, there's a whole sober curious movement that's kind of going on right now that I'm kind of curious about and looking into a little bit to see what that's all about. And I hope it sticks a little, you know?
I think it will. I think it will. In the beginning, because in some ways I'm kind of like, could be in that category of old timer because I'm a product of the 12-step rooms. But, you know, in the beginning I had a little bit of hesitation towards it. I was a little judgmental about it because I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I had to get sober because I burned my life to the ground and I was going to die. What do you mean you're sober curious? And now I'm like, no, this is awesome, right? Yes, like, but I had to get over my own stuff to get to that place. And now I'm right into it. I have several friends who are doing the sober curious thing, and they do it all sorts of ways. And I'm like, that is awesome. right? Like they're seeking clarity and a cleaner life, and hopefully maybe they're seeking God a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they find out that's what they're seeking.
Yeah, I think I kind of refer to it as the society of alcohol and just how powerful it is, and it starts at such a young age. And so just listening to you talk about taking your child, to your meetings, one of the things that I love is that I talk openly about it with my 11-year-old, and because I just want him to see that, that here's a life that's going really well, that's really successful, and does not involve alcohol on any level. Because, as I grew up, I remember watching my parents and my aunts and uncles and my, older siblings and all that, using alcohol and talking about it in such a praiseworthy way that you kind of grow up just thinking that's the way it's supposed to be, right? And so it's neat to see people talking openly about it and be like, hey, this doesn't need to be, right?
It's okay if we're a little bit boring.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know that was my thing. I don't want to be boring. I want to be having fun. I don't want to miss out on something, because I too was raised in a party atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I felt that was how it was supposed to be, but but there's this whole other world out there. There's so much. And if anything, and you said it, like my life is more exciting.
Absolutely.
There's more joy in my life than I've ever had. So I
that
guess boring is good.
Well, that boring aspect fascinates me because, as someone who's looking, if you go out with some friends or you see people who are drinking, if you pay attention to it all, it's very interesting that to me, that seems boring now. Because when you watch the intellectual conversations decline over the night as the drinks continue to pour, and how people just kind of start checking out because they're thinking more about what they have to say than what somebody else is saying. It's just, that environment to me is very boring, and so I feel so much more excited and having, so much more fun being present all the time.
And getting up at like 6 a.m.
Yeah,
excited to do things.
That's great. Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Carmell. I appreciate you coming on. Do you want to give yourself a couple plugs, or name of your books, websites where people could find you, anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. So Carmell Pelly, that's my name. CarmellPelly.com will take you to my website. It'll take you to Instagram, which will lead you to podcasts, books. I do want to plug, I have something super exciting, actually, that's coming in the next couple months. I've created a recipe book. It's called Indulge Mocktails. So it's all non-alcoholic drinks, and it's filled with all the seasons. And then I have another area of botanical drinks for healing. But it's all, it's a way it's for everybody. I mean, whether you're a drinker or you're a non-drinker, or sober curious or sober, it's just a really fun book to, get ideas for your parties, or maybe you want to make something special to sit down and read a book, right? Yeah,
that's very cool. Did I send you that link for that, for the Sexy AF Spirits? Did you see that yet?
You know what? I saw it come up, but I haven't clicked on it yet. Okay. Yeah.
Check it out. They're pretty amazing.
Yeah. No, I look forward to looking at it. I actually, I had my 5-year-old and my 6-year-old niece. I had them both the last couple of days. So
oh, cool. Yeah.
I was busy at the park.
I hear you.
At the playground.
Well, so I guess I'll be seeing you probably here in the next week or so.
Yes.
Coming on your podcast.
Yes.
And I look forward to that. And I appreciate you sharing your time and your story. Very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a privilege to get to share. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to get to know you more and seeing what you do in the future moving forward too. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I am on xstopwriting.com. You can find pretty much everything. So blog, podcast, videocast, everything will be right there. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys again.